Welcome back, blade lovers. This old sword is with you once again, and today we have another Rike knife. It is a classic Rike knife that I've been trying to get a hold of for a number of years now, and in fact it's about 2 years since this was released. I'm seeing some of the older reviews on it going back 2 years. And Rike Knife Company, owned by Richard Wu, was founded in 2008, claiming to represent Chinese characteristics. Rike began their journey as a professional knife maker after a humble beginning, bringing other designers' creations to life in the OEM/ODM market. Now, this information comes to you via knifeinformer.com. And all of the Rike knives are internally designed, of course, with the exception of the OEM work they did for Microtech earlier in 2022 for the SOCOM Bravo line, and the Anax, which is the latest knife that they've produced for Microtech. So they are a OEM of great renown, similar to Reate, who makes knives for many different high-end designers and companies. So I'll leave it at that. Kind of a long-winded intro. And yes, the knife is open and the knife is on the table, folks. Let's take a look at it. The steel is M390. And let's take a really good look at this shred carbon fiber handle that is a combo of red, black, and gray. You can see those big pieces of carbon fiber shred. I'm wondering if we can give you a brighter view with by opening up the lens just a little bit here. See if that helps. Don't want to blow out the highlights. Look at that blue anodized backspacer, titanium, and this raised lanyard slot, blued titanium clip with a ceramic ball. We've got some interesting detail on the gray titanium side. And, you know, it's kind of a shame that we didn't see the inset material work its way over to this side. I think it would have been really, really nice. It's about a $200 knife, so it's high-end for sure. This came from Atlantic Cutlery, and I almost got the smaller version. It looked like they weren't going to make this anymore, but I think this is kind of backed by popular demand. This is almost a full 4-inch knife that we'll see in a moment. There is a smaller brother to it, which is also called the 1902, so you can mistakenly order the wrong knife. I'm going to make sure I give you the link to this one. This comes with the red and gray shred carbon fiber, but it also comes in a blue and gray shred carbon fiber. But it's just beautifully done. And the mate up here with the titanium is very smooth. I can just barely feel the difference of any ridge there between materials. We have a gold or brass colored hardware and a surround with the blue Rike pivot. Same thing on the other side with the T8. And we've even got the gold colored hardware for the insert. Hardened steel insert in the titanium. Quite a nice lockup. I'm going to see if I can back out a little bit and catch a better focus here. As with all Rike knives, they use a script font. I'm not real fond of it myself. It makes it difficult to read sometimes. This apparently is number, I've got to bring it close to my eye, 369. So In the 1902 model range, this is 369, so it's not exactly a low number. Ergos are great. It is a thin-handled knife. It is a fairly thin stock blade, but they've kept a lot of meat in the point all the way out there to the end. And it's a kind of a familiar drop point pattern that they're using on a number of their models. I'll show you for comparison in a moment. And a full finger choil, no messing around there, lots of room for that index finger. You're not going to get nicked by putting your full finger in there, which is a usable feature. Let's talk about specifics or specs. It is a 9-inch knife, exactly from point to pommel. It is 4 inches exactly to the handle, with a cutting edge of 3.5 inches due to that large choil. Blade stock in millimeters. Let's get it right down here. Well, looks like it was going to jump to a 3.0. 3.0. Switching to inches, we get 0.12. And let's see how thin the handle is. Well, a little thicker than I thought, but it's heavily contoured. 0.53. Thought it would be like a 1/2 inch or below. Let's check the weight on this beautiful knife. And we have under 4 ounces, 3.966. Just really a sweet knife. Some very fine kind of micro jimping on the flipper tab, only on the very top, but that gives you a lot of drag. I mean, it's pretty interesting how well that works, because as Todd Knife and Tool likes to say, Zelrick from Todd Knife and Tool, when they cant that flipper tab forward ahead of the pivot, you've got incredible leverage. So although the detent on this is beautifully tuned, I can probably fail it. Yeah, because it's soft enough to where you can fail it, but with just an easy motion of your finger, it's really tuned like, I don't know, a fine watch, fine something or other. About 1/2 inch will stick out of your pocket, so not too bad on the clip, not deep carry, but close to it. And we've got a pretty good blade to handle ratio with a perfectly centered blade. And we've got a lockup, solid as a rock, and a very finely bead blasted blade. You can see one fingerprint that I put on there, but it's sort of shiny. It's got a little gloss to it. It's not as dull as some of the bead blasted finishes that I've seen. Real interesting organic sort of profile to the handle that is extremely comfortable. It really feels like a much thinner handle than it is, and even though it's not really thick. For comparison, the first knife I want to pull out is the Tule, which is Rike's first G10 integral handle. And look at the similarity in the blades. Very close profile. It's a smaller knife, the Tule, by just maybe 1/2 inch or so. Still a fairly large size. We've got a little more handle on the 1902, but you can see, if I hold them up, that the handle profiles are fairly similar. It's got that tapered towards the pommel sort of look to it, and the large finger swale there, not choil, but finger groove. I don't know why we call them finger grooves. I guess they are a groove. The Thule comes in around, I think, around 120 to 130. It's extremely light. So much of it is G10 with the exception of the pivot there. But I brought it mainly out so you could see the blade similarities and the handle to that degree. Here is a beauty that came out recently, the Lamella. This is a real work of art. Has kind of a quasi-integral handle because this is a shell cover over the internals of the knife. But for all intents and purposes, it's integral, except they didn't need to mill out the whole knife to make it so. They just needed to mill out this one piece. And there's a little magic trigger down in there that takes the cover off, not particularly easily, but it does take it off. And this is in a Persian style. This has gotten a lot of attention lately. Also a full finger choil that is shared into the frame and the flipper tab on this one, as opposed to the 1902 where it sort of stands out ahead of the frame of the handle. This comes under the frame of the handle. Gorgeous all titanium and CPM S20V on that guy. Finally, see if we can make room. Here is the M2. This was my first Rike knife. Mirror finish, mirror polish, which I don't think they do on this particular model anymore. You know, for a factory to provide a mirror finish on like about $170 knife, that's pretty darn good. This one's in 154 with a titanium handle that's kind of a green ano. Actually green G10 on one side and green, kind of a green-blue ano on the other. But they do make some interesting and out there designs for sure. Those are 4 out of a dozen Rike knives that I have. Even if I don't include the 2 Socom Bravos in the house. How about a comparison with regular old Griptilian for size? It is much longer, coming up close to 1.5 inches or so longer than the Griptilian. And Rat 1 from Ontario. Yes, even longer than the Rat 1. And if we switch to perspective a little bit, it's going to look even a little longer. I'm not directly over these knives the way my camera's on a tripod. It's coming up close to 1 inch longer than the Griptilian, than the Rat 1. Another look around. How's the action? Drop shut. Just silky smooth. So great tuning of that detent. You barely have to push on that flipper tab at all. Even though it's a little on the softer side, and just seems to be tuned to the weight of the blade. You know, that's what they need to do. The thickness, the weight. You know, each tuning of a detent needs to sort of fit with the knife and sometimes with the use of the knife. This would be called kind of a classy, large, full-size gentleman's knife, for lack of a better term. Might not be the knife you want to bring out in the woods with you, but for maybe city carry, EDC, it's a real good choice. Or maybe you just want to make a safe queen out of it, like I probably will. There you go, the Rike 1902, designed by Richard Wu, Rike Knife Company. Hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to give it a like and subscribe.